Can we call the roll?
Senator Hanger.
Here.
Senator Stanley. Senator Favola. Here. Senator DeSteph. Here. Senator Donovan. Senator Chase.
Here.
Senator McPike.
Here.
Senator Howell.
Here.
Senator Spruill.
Here.
Senator Morrissey. Senator Pillion.
Here.
Senator Bell.
Here.
Senator Hashmi. Senator Kiggins.
Here.
Senator Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, great. All right, we've got a couple of housekeeping matters to take up. First thing we're going to do, we've got a couple of bills that have been requested to be carried over by the patrons. That would be Senate Bill 1385, Senator Surville, and Senator Marsden's 1393. And in addition to that, there was a bill heard by Senator Spruill's Charter Subcommittee this morning that we're going to carry over, and that is Senator Deed's SB 1267. So do we need a motion on that, or do we just carry them over? All right, do we have a motion?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that's great. All right, now the next thing we're going to do is hear from the Charter Subcommittee that Senator Spruill had this morning, a report from him, and we'll take action on those bills. And then the plan is just to move through the docket as it is listed. All right, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the members, first one we're looking at is Senate Bill 1128, the City of Norfolk amending the charter. It says it was to change the justice of the peace to the city clerk, to whom newly elected or appointed officials and the other members. This bill also appeals the section of the code that will get rid of the payment for poll tax. So what you're really doing is appealing that to get rid of the poll tax. Mr. Chairman, also, if you will look, those who have the bill on line 34, it was a move by the committee on line 34 where it says, any such court or justice of the peace of said the city clerk. That was stricken. They wanted to put that back into it. So it was moved by a member and second and unanimously voted that we amended to put that back into the bill.
Okay.
And it would read that before any such court or justice of the peace of said are the city clerk. So that was moved and put back into the bill. And that was moved. With that, Mr. Chairman, the committee voted unanimously to recommend to the full committee.
All right, so we've got an amendment to proposed by the subcommittee on 1128. Do we have a motion on the amendment?
I will move that the amendment be reinstated, or the amendment be stated.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of the amendment? Aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, is there anybody to speak against repealing the poll tax? Didn't think so. All right, so we've got SB 1128 in front of us.
Whose report?
All right, as amended. Okay,
Amended.
and there's a second. All right, let's call the roll.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I don't see this bill on our docket.
It's on mine. Okay. I mean, it's there.
It's in the subcommittee docket. It has not been moved to our full committee docket.
Right. We okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go ahead and vote on 1128. Is there anybody queued up?
No.
Yeah. All right, that's okay.
Senator Hanger. Senator Stanley. Senator Favola. Senator DeSteph. Senator Donovan.
Yes.
Senator Chase.
Yes.
Senator McPike.
McPike votes aye by proxy.
Understood. Senator Howell.
Aye.
Senator Spruill.
Aye.
Senator Pillion. Senator Bell. Senator Hashmi.
Aye.
Senator Kiggins.
Aye.
Senator Lewis.
Aye.
13 ayes, no nays.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, next one is Senate Bill 1152. A bill to amend the Act No. 1 and 4 of the Charter of the Town of Appomattox, which was granted by order of the Circuit Court of the County of Appomattox on June 2nd, 1925, as an amendment by the Chapter 43 of the Act of the Assembly of 1980 relating to election and appointment of officers at the time of the election. Mr. Chairman, if you look at the bill on line 28, from line 28, the change was made from line 28 to line 31. And that was there. You can look at that in the question that it was unanimously recommended by the subcommittee to approve.
Any discussion on Senate Bill 1152? Anybody queued up for public comment on 1152?
Move the report.
All right. Moved and seconded that 1152 be reported.
Senator Hanger. Senator Stanley. Senator Favola. Senator DeStaff. Senator Donovan. Senator Chase.
Aye.
Senator McPike.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Howell.
Aye.
Senator Spruill.
Aye.
Senator Morrissey. Senator Pillion. Senator Bell. Senator Hashmi.
Aye.
Senator Kiggins.
Aye.
Senator Lewis.
Aye.
13 ayes, no
Oh, I'm
nays.
sorry. And Senator McPike votes aye by proxy.
Yes, I have them down. 13 ayes, no nays.
All right. Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last one is Senate Bill number 1216, a bill to amend reenactment of 3.1 amended 3237, amendment of 5.1 of the Charter 669 of the Act of the Assembly in 1972, which provide a charter for the town of Cruz in Nottoway County and to appeal the Charter 6 through 6.4. Mr. Chairman, if you look down to line 25 on the bill, beginning with the regular municipal election to be held on the first Tuesday in May of 2022, the term of the mayor and town should be as governor as follows. The mayor should be elected to serve a 4-year term expiring June 26. Number 2, the 4 members of town council who are elected with the highest number of votes should serve. Number 3, the 3 members of the town council who are elected with fewer votes will have a 2-year term. So it was recommended. Recommended by the committee to support.
All right. Any discussion on Senate Bill 1216?
Move to approve.
Anybody queued up for public comment? All right. We have a motion on move to report 1216. Is there a second? Second. All right.
Senator Stanley. Senator Favola. Senator DeStaff. Senator Donovan. Senator Chase.
Aye. And could I also abstain from Senate Bill 1128 and change my vote?
Senator Chase. Senator McPike.
See.
Howell.
Aye.
Senator Spruill. Senator Pillion. Senator Bell. Senator Hashmi.
Aye.
Senator Kiggins.
Aye.
Lewis.
Aye.
Thir-
Proxy, I'm sorry.
yes, it's 13 ayes, no nays.
All right. Next up on my list is Senate Bill 1120, which would be Senator Reeves' bill. I believe Senator Reeves is with us.
I'm with you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Senator Reeves, tell us about your great bill.
Mr. Chairman, this came as a request of Albemarle County, a few other county forms of government, executive forms of government. And basically, the critical lines are lines 15, 16, 46, and 47. What it does is allows them on multi-year capital projects to be able to not have to go back and reapprove them. each year so they can carry those over, especially in COVID, trying to get people together. When they were having to do these things, it was slowing up projects, and you can just imagine the timetable and time frame it was taking to get ramped back up. So this is I believe, smart government, making sure that they can do that. It doesn't do anything as far as making it a shall. It still says they may. We didn't change that on line 15 after, however, it says may be carried over from year to year. So they don't have to do it. It's not a mandated thing, but it allows those localities that choose to want to be able to do that, that have an executive form of government, the opportunity to carry these things over and keep progress going. And that's the bill, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any questions for Senator Reeves on Senate Bill 1120? Is there anybody queued up for public comment on 1120?
Mr. Chairman, I think we had a couple folks that represent different counties. I'm not sure if BML and VACO are on board, but as far as testifying today, but I've received no nays on it. Had a lot of input, so everybody thinks it's a pretty good idea.
Okay. All right. And you said nobody's lined up for public comment? We do have one? Okay.
Mr. David Blount.
Let's hear from him.
David Blount.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chairman. This is David. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we've got you.
Okay, great. Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. On behalf of Albemarle County, I certainly appreciate Senator Reeves putting in this bill. It does apply only to Albemarle and to Prince William counties, are the only two that have the county executive form of government, which this bill addresses. And it really is just a matter of efficiency, as the senator said, to allow them to carry forward those multi-year grant projects and multi-year capital projects, so they don't have to close the books and reopen the books and close purchase orders and reconcile. It just they've already voted on them, so it just allows them to carry forward. And we would certainly encourage and hope that you would vote in favor of the bill. Thank you.
All right. Any discussion on Senate Bill 1120 or any questions for the patron or for Mr. Blount?
Move the report. Second.
Motion and second to report Senate Bill 1120. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, well, call the roll.
Senator Hanger.
Aye.
Senator Favola.
Aye.
Senator DeSteff. Senator Donovan.
Aye.
Senator Chase.
Aye.
Senator McPike. Senator Howell. Senator Spruill.
Aye.
Senator Morrissey.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Pillion. Senator Bell. Senator Hashmi.
Aye.
Senator Kiggins.
Aye.
Senator Lewis.
Aye.
13 ayes, no nays.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Senator Reeves. Next up, I have 1141, Senator Cosgrove's bill. Oh, there he is.
Move the report.
Senate Bill 1141 is actually brought forth by the Southeastern Public Service Authority to help them have a little more.
Whoa, everybody, let's keep quiet now. Pay attention, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is very simple. What it does is actually requires that the Southeastern Public Service Authority to have a 5-year financial plan that is publicly available. It also requires that 3/4 vote to issue new debt would be required for SIPSA. Oh, thank goodness it wasn't me. This is actually brought at SIPSA's request. In 2010, I carried House Bill 1187, which by the governor and by the localities. They have, since that time, eliminated all of their $280 million debt and have reduced the tipping fees to the localities by 2/3. So I'm very comfortable with this organization now. I'm very comfortable for the people that serve on that, and I'd ask that you favorably consider this bill.
All right. Any questions for Senator Cosgrove on Senate Bill 1141?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. I hear a voice. Senator Chase.
Thank
I see you
you.
now. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. While I so appreciate this bill, as you all know, on this committee and serving in local governments, I have a lot of concerns about authorities in general. And so I guess one of the questions that I would have, Senator Cosgrove, can you help me to better understand how this is going to be different than the infrastructure that we have in place with economic development authorities that basically create boards with unelected representatives or authorities that are making decisions for bonds and contracts and those types of things? Is it that same thing or is it different?
It's quite different, Mr. Chairman. Senator Chase, is quite different. The authority is made up of 8 members who are appointed by the governor of Virginia and selected by the localities. Also, the senior members of the localities, mayors or vice mayors, are also members of this organization. This organization covers every locality in Hampton Roads to dispose of solid waste. In the past, it was only members appointed by the city councils, and they, be honest with you, it was seriously broken. And in 2010, we fixed that. They have acted accordingly since 2010. They have done a very good job. And again, while you can say it's unelected, those members who are serving from the cities are elected officials or their designees. And the 8 officials that are serving by direction of the governor, here's what happens. The governor gives 3 names to each locality to represent them, and the locality chooses one of those 3 names. They cannot choose somebody outside of those 3 names. We started this, I think, with Governor McAuliffe, and to be honest with you, they have done a spectacular job. I've been very proud of CIPSA. I was their biggest critic for many, many years, but they've done a really good job. They have very good leadership, and I believe that they are well situated to take care of this bill.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a follow-up question?
Senator Chase.
I'm just trying to understand, and I appreciate your comments. Help me to navigate this, if you would, Senator Cosgrove. What I'm trying to avoid is having unelected representatives to spend taxpayer money. So if I'm trying to avoid that scenario where I'm making sure that only elected officials are spending our taxpayer money, if I vote for this, am I going against that principle?
If you vote for this, actually, this is just changes the terms of what the authority is allowed to do. It does not change their structure. The structure of CIPSA is a combination of elected officials, but is also a combination of, as I said before, governor's appointees to this particular authority. Also, part of the requirement for being appointed is to have a business background or financial background. I'll get a little in the weeds here. Basically, the fees that CIPSA spends for trucks and for the city dump and that type of thing are actually tip fees paid by the localities to the authority. So while it's not an actual tax like a sales tax or something like that, certainly it is local money that's going to take care of the waste disposal. So in answer to your question, they are not totally unelected, but many are elected.
And Mr. Chairman, just a final comment. I'll probably abstain for this vote, but I would love to get together with you between now and the...
I'd be more than happy to, Senator.
All right. Any other questions for Senator Cosgrove on 1141? Is there anybody queued up to speak on 1141?
Mr. Chip? Mr. Chip Dix?
Oh, it's Chip?
Chip? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I was chipped. Okay.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we got you. We got you, Chip. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I actually punched to speak on the next bill, Senate Bill 1207, so I have no comments on this bill.
Okay. I was wondering. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I'd like to speak to this bill.
Is that Senator Steph?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Bill.
Mr. Chairman, I used to sit on the SIPSA board when they had a lot of problems. I mean, an enormous amount of problems. And what Senator Cosgrove has done over the last couple of years with SIPSA has been amazing. And SIPSA is a body of elected officials from all of the communities that participate. And I believe every community has a liaison who's a true voting member. So they do determine how and have influence on how they spend the money within that authority. What Senator Cosgrove is doing here is something I would truly support and would say is necessary, and applaud him on the way he has worked to restructure SIPSA over the last few years. With that, I'd like to make a motion that we report this bill.
Okay.
I thank the Senator.
Motioned and seconded that we report Senate Bill 1141. I believe we can vote electronically now. Is that correct? All right, let's open up the roll. Who has Morrissey's proxy?
I'm trying to, wait a minute, wait a minute, hold on a minute.
Touch yay. Now hit yay again if you remember.
You know I love John Cosmo, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention.
There you go, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your courtesies. Thank you, the committee.
Next up, we have Senate Bill 1157, Senator Spruill.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I have to take this down. You know, I have a speech problem. I have to take this down if you don't mind.
It's fine with me. I've got immunity now, so you go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, remember Senate Bill 1157 is legislation that would move local elections from May to November. Currently, we have approximately 130 localities who have their local election for local government in May. This legislation is solely for a cost efficiency only, was not requested by any city or what have you. Cost and talking with the citizens in the state. In May of 2020, there were just over 2 million active voters eligible to vote in the local election. Of those, approximately 138,000 people participated in the local election out of over 2 million. This is roughly between 5 to 10% of the active voters. Not registered voters, that will lower the percentage even more. This past year, registered had to hold election in March, primary, May election, June primary, and then again in November. With the law now in place to allow early voting, this is a burdensome on our register as well as the taxpayers who are footing the bill. I don't see an impact statement yet. However, this has to cost the state hundreds of thousands of dollars that will be used for salary, equipment, and other things for the localities. In Chesapeake, for example, this cost them $125,000. Mr. Chairman, also, let me break it down a little bit. Let's take Chesapeake in the May election. In Chesapeake, out of 153,415 people who voted in a May election, out of 154,000 almost, 33,000 people voted. Let's take Fairfax City. Out of 16,145 in Fairfax City, in May, only 3,439 voted. Let's take Hampton. Hampton has 89,844. In the May election, only 16,000. Let's take Newport News. 109,835, only 15,000. Let's take Norfolk, the last one. Out of 119,000 in the city of Norfolk, only 13,000 voted in the primary, sitting around doing nothing. So this bill was put in by a constituent, not by a city. Now, let's get the two cities that I represent, that I'll be just about finished. I represent Chesapeake and Norfolk, half and half. Chesapeake is mostly Republican, except my portion, and Norfolk is mostly Democrat. So I'm caught between the crotch here. So I'm doing it for the citizen, not the city council. You received a letter from the city council, from the mayor of Chesapeake, who objecting to this. He says, by doing this, will give attention away for local issues in favor of partisan election. In Chesapeake, if you run for a city council in Chesapeake, you have to run as a Democrat and a Republican. Ask anybody. In May, there's no such thing. We're supposed to be nonpartisan in Chesapeake, but if you want to run or win in Chesapeake, you got to run as a Republican or Democrat. We campaigned that in May, so he is wrong on that point. Also, he says the city of Chesapeake requested that you oppose a statewide mandate on this bill. Now, I pass out to you a letter by Councilmember Ella Ward. If you would turn over the back, on the back it says, Dear Mr. Prescott and Mayor West, Mr. Prescott is the legislative aide for the city of Chesapeake. And this is Councilman Ella Ward. I have a problem with this letter and any other letter that give the impression that all the city councils support the letter of opposing Senate Bill 1157. I believe that there were 3 members in favor of the May election. City council in Chesapeake only have 1 Democrat, okay, out of 9. This is from Councilmember Ella Ward. She say, I believe that 3 members voted in favor of change from May to election. I, Councilmember Woman Dr. Ella P. Ward, support 1157. And I would like for you to draft another letter. That's what she was saying to the city manager's office, expressing my support. This change will save the city and taxpayers in this city a lot of money. And most of the citizens whom I have supported support the change of this bill. So this was not a letter, a vote by city council. What Mayor West was talking about last year, when the governor had proposed to change in November. Last year, city council in Chesapeake voted 63 not to change. There was no vote taken on 1157. And so that's what Dr. Ward was saying, that I didn't vote on this, neither did city council. But again, I'm not putting it in for a city. I'm putting it in for a state at large to save the city money. Could you imagine how much money it would save the localities? Now that we can vote early. So there's no need for this. So, are you doing it because Chesapeake is mostly Republican? No, because the city of Norfolk is mostly Democrat. So I'm caught between a hard place. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. So, Mr. Members, I would appreciate if you would give me the favor support on this bill.
All right, any questions for Senator Spruill on 1157? Yep, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Senator Spruill, for your presentation. I just want to clarify that this ordinance would have to be adopted and the transition would take place for this next November. This would be the correct November 2021 elections.
I think the bill says 2022, I believe.
Okay, well then I don't see that.
I don't have a copy in front of me.
I don't see that in mine. It just said that for those who would be, Mr. Chairman, may I continue?
Yep. Senator Favola.
Thank you. For those whose term would expire in June, they'll continue in office until their successors have been elected at the general election, November general election. So let me see, just above that, held after January 1 elections for mayor. Okay.
See it?
So I guess this would have to happen by January 1, 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions for Senator Spruill? All right, we have 13 people signed up.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Who's that? Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Hanger.
Thank you. I'd just like to speak to it briefly and,
Yes, sir.
and offer a motion to get it in front of us before the speakers, and hopefully that will short circuit some of it. But I would share that back a number of years ago, shortly after I came into the Senate, I carried a bill which allowed the first locality to have November elections. That was the town of Bridgewater. And I was feeling pretty good about myself for being able to accomplish that. But what I discovered was that the former majority leader, Senator Andrews, had been adamantly opposed to that. So he was no longer in the Senate. So that kind of paved the way for this thing to, this type of maneuver to be done. And I fully support it. A lot of localities since then have adopted November elections. And so I would move that the bill be reported.
All right. Got a motion second, but we've got 13 people we have to hear from. Think how best to do this. Yeah. Yeah, why don't we do that? That's a good idea. Let's get a judge idea about who's out there and what their position is on the bill.
Those who wish to speak for the bill, please raise your hand. Jean Hanowich, are you prepared to speak?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Please go ahead.
Hello. Good morning. My name is Jean Hanowich. I'm a resident of Chesapeake and founder of Change the Date Virginia, a volunteer group dedicated to increasing voter turnout in local elections across Virginia by advocating for all remaining May local elections to be shifted to November when voter turnout is drastically higher. I have been dedicated to this cause for over 2 years. Please vote yes on this bill. I am honored to speak to you before you today on the nationwide celebration of the life and achievements of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King is one of my heroes. He was not only a civil rights leader, but a fierce advocate for voting rights. One of my favorite quotes of his is, "Voting is the foundation stone for political action." A yes vote today means you agree with Dr. King that the vote is the foundation of public participation in our government. And
all right, Ms. Hanowich, I'm going to have to.
Public participation.
I've got you. I'm going to have to. I think we get the gist of your comments. I'm going to have to stop you there. We've got 12 other people in line. All right, so folks, what we're going to do is we're going to have to give you all a timer on this. We've got a docket that goes beyond this bill, and I think we all know how we think about it, and want to give you an opportunity to express your opinions. So, give you about 30 seconds apiece. State your name and whatever other points you want to make in a very brief period of time. Okay?
Thank you for your time. Please vote yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Dr. Shirley August, are you prepared to speak?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Go ahead.
Okay, good morning, and thank you so much for hearing me. As stated, my name is Dr. Shirley Augusti. I am a business owner, educator, as well as a small business owner. I'm asking that you vote in favor of changing the May election to November. As stated, you know, it is a waste of money, and not many people come out to vote. Most minorities and working class families do not keep up with the May elections, and therefore they do not get to exercise their voices in reference to their local election.
All right. Thank you. And
yes,
just a word to all the speakers, whether pro or against, if you start your remarks out with "has already stated," that's not a good thing to do, okay? You just don't need to repeat all the points that have been repeated before, okay? So if it comes down to that's all you've got to say is what's already been said, just state your name and that you support or oppose, okay? Next.
Mary Lou Burke, are you prepared to speak?
Yes, I am.
All right, go ahead.
My name is Mary Lou Burke. I ran for Chesapeake City Council in the spring of 2018. So I know how much interest there is all over Chesapeake in this issue. Mayor West and other candidates who ran in the spring of 2018 said at the time that they supported the move to consolidate to November. The following August, once they were incumbents, they or reelected, they voted against even a public comment period on this. So this is not about what's best for the residents and the voters and the interest of Chesapeake. It's about chronological gerrymandering. Thank you.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Next.
Kristen Codito.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Bell.
Mr. Chairman, could we have the people when they come on to say at the beginning they support or oppose, because it's kind of hard to know where they're getting at.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a reasonable request. So when you speak, please say whether you're in favor or opposed. I think these are all supposed to be in favor at this point, Senator Bell. But anyway. All right. Next.
I'm Kristan Canito. You just called my name. I am very much in favor of this bill. Generational or chronological gerrymandering is a thing. I feel the letter from Rick West to Senator is completely inappropriate and is him clinging to power. And I feel as though he should not be comfortable with only 10% of the people who are eligible to vote putting him in that position of power.
Okay, great and very succinct. Thank you very much. Next.
Mary Valls, please go ahead.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry about that. My name is Mary Voss. I'm from Newport News, Virginia. Please vote yes on this bill. Sadly, some local elected officials in Virginia, such as the mayor of Chesapeake, are advocating against consolidating local elections into November. I urge legislators to be very wary of the motives of local elected officials who are advocating against consolidating elections to November when far more of their constituents vote, and also when far more of their minority constituents vote. Low turnout May local elections make it very difficult to unseat incumbent elected officials. Please vote yes on this bill. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Next.
Joy Gavin, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Joy Gavin, and I am in favor of this bill. I am a teacher at a Title I school in Chesapeake. The parents I work with do not get support from their jobs to be able to go out and vote in May. And so they are left with a school board that does not represent them and does not serve their best interests. And I feel that it is a form of voter suppression to not give those families an opportunity to speak for the school board that best works for them. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Cleon Long, please go ahead.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Cleon Long, resident of Newport News. Please vote yes on this bill. This past summer, we witnessed how important local elections are, such as when a Minneapolis police officer killed George Floyd, an unarmed Black man. The Minneapolis City Council was elected to oversee the police and other local departments in their city that significantly affect the day-to-day lives of their constituents. But when local elections are held at low turnout off-election cycles, most citizens don't even know an election is happening and end up without a voice in the local government. Most recently, while I was campaigning for Newport News City Council, I learned that a key to beating an incumbent is to turn out new voters who didn't vote in the last election cycle. In my effort to bring in new voters, I learned that the challenge was not only to convince people to vote for me, but also to educate citizens that local elections are held in May. Sadly, most had no idea. It seems clear that the reason less than 15% of Newport News citizens vote in local elections.
All right, Mr. Long, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up there. Your time's expired, okay?
Okay, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melanie Cornelise, please go ahead.
Good morning, Senators. I just want to make it clear that every one of us who's spoken thus far are voting in favor, are asking you to vote in favor, vote yes on 1157. And I ask you to do the same. I just want to address one thing that hasn't been mentioned yet, and that's the fact that when they hold our local elections here in Chesapeake in May, often they don't shut down the schools where the polling places are, and that allows anybody who wants to come in ostensibly to vote, to also be able to enter into our kids' schools. I've got 2 kids here in Chesapeake, 1 in CPS, and I think that moving all of our local elections to November, when everybody has the day off anyway and the schools are closed down, will make it a lot safer for our community and encourage a lot more people to vote. Right now, our democracy is not functioning here, and our representatives, our leaders are. They do not represent us. They are not listening to our concerns, and they have no reason to, because right now a tiny minority of our registered voters show up to vote or even know that our elections are in May. So please make them accountable.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rebecca Crocker, please go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Rebecca Crocker. I would like you to vote in favor of this bill. Moving local elections to November, when citizens are accustomed to visiting the polls, would increase civic participation on the local level and save taxpayer money to boot. Please vote to report SB 1157. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Karen Sturdivant, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Dr. Karen Sturdivant, and I approve to move May elections to November. This will increase minority and new turnout, and it will save taxpayers money. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Alice Twinning, please go ahead.
I'm Dr. Alice Twining. I'm a clinical psychologist. I certainly support wholeheartedly this bill, 1157, because I also know that November means go out and vote, and May does not mean that to people. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Kim Sudarth, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kim Sudarth, and I would like you to vote in favor of SB 1157. After the events from January 6th, I am now more confident than ever that we have to do as much as we can to protect democracy. And I believe that Virginians, all Virginians, want a democracy that's based on truth and unity. Right now, shifting our elections from May to November will increase turnout, and that is how we save it. So we cannot heal a divided nation with divided elections. Please support SB 1157 for a unified democracy.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Next.
Jennifer Naparula, please go ahead.
Are you there?
I am. Thanks. Sorry. Good morning. I'm Jennifer Naparella, and I am in favor of this bill because we tell young people to vote all the time, and that if they want to see change, they need to vote. But with voter turnout in May elections so low and enthusiasm for those elections likewise lackluster, we're showing young people the opposite. May elections show young people that no one cares about voting and that voting is a waste of time. We want our young people to feel that their vote matters, and we want energized and engaged municipal elections. Energy and engagement at the local level will only happen if municipal elections are timed with state and national elections in November. If we want our Commonwealth to truly be able to boast a democratic process by including all potential voters, local elections cannot be held in May.
All right. Thank you
for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Susan Lewis, please go ahead.
Ms. Lewis?
I'm sorry, unmuting. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is actually Sue Lewis. I mean, you know me as Sue Lewis. I live in Charlottesville. I'm speaking today on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Virginia. As you know, our primary focus is making it easier for voters to vote. Therefore, it is our position that supporting the changing of municipal elections from May to November will make voting more convenient for many residents across the Commonwealth and therefore increase voter turnout.
Okay. Thank you, Sue.
Yep.
Good to hear from you. How you doing?
Thank you.
Good. Next.
Benjamin Green, please go ahead.
Hello, good morning, members of Committee on Local Government. I'm a 21-year-old constituent of the 5th Senate District. I've been a lifelong resident of Chesapeake. I think we can all agree that when more people are involved in the electoral process, that is when we receive the best product of democracy. May elections serve as a tool of voter suppression. Its history in our state, like many voting laws in the South, were used as a way during the Jim Crow era to restrict this right from specifically communities of color. It is time for the Senate of Virginia to take a stand for the localities that refuse to change these outdated and vote restricting laws. We've heard so many comments over the past few years from city council members when these issues were raised, such as may elections bring out the most informed voters, and even that voting is a privilege for those that are informed enough to vote. These are exact quotes from city council members. It's disheartening to hear these comments from council incumbents that have held their seats before I was even born in 1999. The truth is these council members are comfortable with the status quo and benefit when less people vote. So I'm urging you all to please support SB 1157 for increased voter
Mr. Green. Thank you, Mr. Green. Next.
Patricia Gudzinski, please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Pat Gudzinski. Can you hear me?
Are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Not very well.
Sorry. Good morning. My name is Patricia Gudzinski. I am an elections official in Virginia Beach, and I want to share my my story with you because I have been seeing firsthand the real difficulties in staffing the polls during elections, and especially when they were not a regular November election here. The burden for cities and counties to staff and support these spring elections is not only difficult, but truly seems to me to be financially irresponsible. At each election, there has been a decrease in participating elections workers, in my experience, and it has been more and more difficult to encourage participation, especially when we have local elections where the turnout is low. The opportunity to have all elections at one time would increase voter turnout, efficiency, and be financially responsible. I hope you will support Bill 1157. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Next.
Alice Twining, are you ready to speak?
I already spoke, thank you.
We're done with anybody in opposition?
Do we have anyone who would like to speak in opposition?
Yes, David Westcott with the City of Chesapeake.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm David Westcott on behalf of the Chesapeake City Council as their legislative affairs liaison. The city is opposed to the bill due to in our legislative package as local authority of charter bills. The City Council opposes this bill because it would change our charter, and the city has not requested a change to the charter of our charter bill, and we oppose the bill.
Two more. Okay, two more in opposition.
Miss Jessica Ackerman.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we've got you. Go ahead.
Terrific. Thanks so much. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I'm Jessica Ackerman with VML. On behalf of our towns, I'd just like to oppose this bill. I know that we have several other members of ours who are waiting to oppose, but I would just like to note that with last year's successful expansion of voting access by the General Assembly, there is now the option for voters to register for the permanent voter registration list. With that, they will receive the ballot in advance. And so I'd just like to note that that should help to increase voter turnout for these May elections.
Okay, thank you.
Jerry Wilson, please go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Jerry Wilson. I'm the legislative liaison for the City of Newport News. We do oppose the bill, partly because we believe that this is a local election of local officials voted on by members of our locality. And so like any other authority, we would ask that the ability to determine the time and date of such elections and when they are suitable for the city would be best left to the local elected officials who are accountable to their voters. So we oppose the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Two more. Okay, let's go.
Dr. Shirley August, are you prepared to speak?
Yes, I just want to address the nays, and I ask that you please support in favor because of the fact that local officials should be doing what their citizens are asking, and the citizens are asking that we change the date
to November and not keep the date in May, because we need to have everybody be able to vote, and the city councils as well as the different local officials are hindering people who want to vote and are not aware that there is a May election. We need to listen to the citizens and not just elected officials that just have their own agendas.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Ed Reed, please go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Ed Reed, Two Capitals Consulting, on behalf of the city of Hampton. Hampton is opposed to this bill respectfully for the reasons that have been stated here. But we believe that this should reserve the right to change with the localities at this particular time. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, I've got somebody on my screen. David Meyer.
Yes, thank you, Chair Lewis. I am David Meyer. I'm the mayor of the city of Fairfax, and I am speaking in opposition to this proposal. Our city and other cities hold elections in the first Tuesday in May. These keep the core mission of the local governments before the voters: economic development, public safety, parks and recreation, education, public works, etc. Holding these elections in May allows the voters to focus on local issues and not have their attention devoted to partisan issues that often are subsume state and federal elections. Our local elections are also increased campaigns. Putting the elections in November will also force a lot more spending by candidates for the unintended effect of subordinating local elections in the minds of voters. Additionally, ballots can become very lengthy, placing local candidates' names at the bottom of the ballot or on the backside of the ballot. The city of Fairfax has successfully held its nonpartisan elections in May for over 60 years as provided by our charter. Now, we have budgeted these elections with our professional registrar, and these elections have been administered efficiently and effectively in the most cost-effective manner. We do not have some of the issues that I have noted. I've been listening here this morning. We contact every 18-year-old in our local high school. They register to vote in their government classes and are encouraged to vote in the local election. In addition to that, the city sends to all 9,700 residences in our city an actual notice of the election, and everyone is fully informed as to when the election is and where they can vote. And we believe that whatever the issues are that are occurring in a couple of jurisdictions in the Commonwealth, we ought not to paint the entire Commonwealth with one brush. We have successful elections in May, and we'd like for them to remain that way. Thank you. Local choice. Thank you,
Mr. Mayor. All right, I believe that completes the public comment. We've got a motion by Senator Hanger and a second in front of us on the bill. Open the roll.
Ayes, 3 nays.
All right. Bill is recommended to report, or is reported. Next up, we have Senate Bill 1207, Senator Barker. Yeah, he was here a minute ago. Senator Barker.
All right, I have two bills before you today, Senate Bill 1207 and 1208. We'll start with 1207. 1207 deals with siting agreements on energy issues. Last year, We had legislation that I carried in the Senate and Jay Jones carried in the House that dealt with citing solar projects. It was defined as solar facilities in the bill last year, and developing agreements between local governments and the entities providing the solar projects. It would be commercial solar projects that would be developed there. What this bill, and that was limited to solar facility projects that were located in opportunity zones. What this bill does is based upon what was in the Clean Virginia Energy Act that we passed last year, which set an aggressive plan out or scope out for over the next 25 years of reaching basically no net increase in greenhouse gases, et cetera, by 2045. There are a lot of steps that need to be taken based upon what was in that bill to get there. Clearly, there's a need for a justification built in there for a substantial amount of additional solar energy. What this bill does, one of the two things it does is it eliminates the provision that was put in last year for the agreements between the localities and the solar companies that the projects that were specific to those solar projects that were in opportunity zones. What this does is this makes it anywhere. So it makes it that you could have those solar projects anywhere. The second thing it does is it adds to the solar facilities language incorporating energy storage projects. Virginia has taken an aggressive stance as it relates to developing energy storage capacity within the Commonwealth to be able to reduce the amount of energy that has to be generated when you don't have that storage that's there. The bill that passed last year in terms of the overall Clean Virginia Economy Act says that Virginia is required to bring over 3,000 megawatts of energy storage online in the next 15 years. So that's and it's one of the most aggressive standards goals that has been put forth by any state in the nation. So this is to help meet these types of things. What has been done here is to develop a proposal that would have local governments working with the companies developing solar facilities or energy storage projects. And part of the arrangements that are authorized in the bill here is having the companies provide payments or negotiate payments to the localities that could be used for a variety of different things. It could be used for capital project needs that are within the localities. It could be deal with the operating budgets of the localities. It could deal with broadband capacity. So there's a number of things that can be done there. So what this does is try to develop a win-win situation for the solar facilities and solar projects and the energy storage projects that are there. There are a couple of people I think who may be testifying on this, but I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that anybody might have on this bill.
Any questions for Senator Barker? No questions for Senator Barker? All right. We have some folks teed up, I think, for public comment. Okay, go ahead.
Chip Dix, are you prepared to speak?
Chip?
I am.
Go ahead.
So, good morning, members of the Senate committee. So I'm speaking today on behalf of the U.S. Energy Storage Association, Chesapeake Solar and Storage Association, and also Virginia Advanced Energy Economy. We've tried to streamline the testimony today. There are a lot of folks interested in this bill, but you may remember, as Senator Barker mentioned, that I stood before you last year in the committee and requested that the committee and the General Assembly allow us siting agreement authority, which did not have a lot of guardrails in that piece of legislation, but allowed solar developers and solar developers who were developing energy storage on their solar project to negotiate with counties and to work on broadband, and as Senator Barker said, any number of different capital projects. And this has been a success, I think, from the county's perspective. You're going to hear from them in a minute, and also from the solar perspective. So as part of the Clean Economy Act, one proposal, as Senator Barker said, to expand this to storage, and the other is to eliminate the opportunity zone requirement so that any locality would be able to negotiate with this. There is another provision in the substitute, which I suggest Senator Barker, we need to ask the committee to adopt a substitute. But the substitute also includes the conditional use special exception provision and extends that from solar, which this committee approved last year, to solar and energy storage. So with that, I was heavily involved in the drafting of the bill, happy to address any specific questions at this time or some later time, but we certainly urge your support for this bill and ask that Senator Barker requests that you adopt a substitute.
Yes, there is a substitute, and this would make it not only to address the issue that Mr. Dix talked about, but would make it compatible with action that's being taken in the House as well. So.
Okay. Moved and seconded, we adopt substitute. All in favor? Aye. Substitutes in front of us. You got anybody else teed up? No, Mr. Chair. Move the report. The Senate. Yeah. Right. And the motion would have to be to report the substitute and refer to finance.
So moved. Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded that the substitute be reported and referred. I'm sorry, what? You mean the omnipotent? The omnipotent chair of finance here? Okay. It's been moved and seconded that the substitute be reported and referred to finance. Open the roll.
14 ayes, 1 nay.
There you go. Senator Barker, you have another.
I have another. This
1208.
1208. This is actually a very simple bill here. What it does is it deals with extending the time during which, after a state of emergency has been in effect, that things that are adopted on a temporary basis could be continued, not just for a 6-month period, which is what's been the current situation, but for a 12-month period. This was brought to me by one of the local governments in Northern Virginia that where I represent part of that district, part of that jurisdiction, and what they were encountering was that in working with in this case, particularly with some of the retail establishments and particularly the restaurants, when they were making extensive purchases and accommodations with to be able to provide outdoor dining and under a tent type of thing, so you can eat outdoors, not just in good weather, but when it's a little chillier and when the weather is inclement there. And they said that it was important for a number of the owners of restaurants in particular, but also some other retail establishments, to be able to make sure that they could recoup the amount of money they're spending on these tents and heaters and other types of things they're getting in there. And to do that, they wanted to have the opportunity to be able to continue the ordinance for 12 months beyond the end of the state of emergency, rather than just 6 months, to be able to do that, to help provide relief, fiscal relief to some of these businesses in the local community there. And these are a lot of the businesses, and particularly restaurants and some of the others that have been very hard hit during the pandemic.
All right, that's the bill. Any questions of Senator Barker on Senate Bill 1208? Do we have anybody queued up on 1208? Okay, go ahead.
Would you please go ahead?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Chris Sigler, and I represent Fairfax County. And first of all, I want to thank Senator Barker for carrying this bill for us. He described exactly what it does and why we want to do it. I would just add that really what we found happening was these businesses who had to invest, this COVID, I don't have to tell you all this, but this COVID-19 pandemic is unlike anything we've ever seen. And the continuity in government statute, I think, was originally designed to deal with more of an emergency that was a quick hitting, if you will, emergency, a hurricane or a terrorist attack, and that didn't require a lot of recovery time. But COVID-19 is much different than that. And our businesses are going to need additional time to recover. So these restaurants who were trying to adapt their business model had to invest a lot of money in these things to do outdoor dining, heaters and tents and the things that Senator Barker mentioned. And they wanted to be sure that if they invest this capital, that they were going to be able to have sufficient time to recoup some of those losses. They were concerned that if the emergency ended, they would lose more money and it wouldn't be a good idea for them to do these things. So that's why the bill was put in. We view it as very pro-business, and we'd hope it'd be the will of the committee to support this bill. Thank you.
Okay, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move that we report the bill.
It's been moved and seconded that 1208 be reported. Let's open the roll.
Fourteen ayes, 1 nay.
All right, bill's reported, Senator Barker.
Thank you very much.
All right, next up we have 1226, Senator Boysko. Senator Boysko, are you ready?
Yes, sir, I am.
Let me ask you a question at the risk of, why should this be in courts?
That would be I know that there was a similar bill last year that started out here and it was referred to courts.
Yeah, because I mean, I think they need to weigh in, or judiciary, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think they need to weigh in on this policy piece of this. And I know finance wants it no matter what happens to it.
That's right.
So I would suggest that a motion to re-refer this to courts would be in order. So moved and seconded that 1226 be re-referred to the judiciary. We need a roll call on that, or can we?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, all right, go ahead. Sorry.
Thirteen yeas, 0 nay.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry for screwing up your schedule. All right, next up, we have Senate Bill 2021, and that's Senator Stewart, who's over in Judiciary, I believe. Yeah, 1249.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill, members of the committee, Senate Bill 1249 very simply puts special exception applications, general development plans, rezoning applications, and the like on the same time frame as plats, site plans, or plans of development. The reason for this, or the genesis of this, is that in some jurisdictions, it's becoming increasingly more difficult for folks to get their applications through in order to move their projects along. And I just would point out to the committee, these are the job creators in the community. These are the ones who are trying to put people to work. They're trying to get projects done. They're trying to build a tax base in the locality. And as we had seen before and had to adopt the provisions for site plans and plats, we're consistently seeing people's projects being put on the back burner and delayed. And it's become very frustrating for a lot of the developers in this community, and that is the genesis of this bill. I'll answer any questions the best I can.
Any questions for Senator Stewart on 1249?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Favola.
So, and I apologize, I haven't read every line of this, but so my understanding is that you're putting more planning documents under the 60-day review than it's currently there. Is that it in a nutshell?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Favola, that is correct. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We saw this issue with site plans and others, and so we adopted the bill to put that timeline on. We see the same problem with applications for other matters, and so we are now we're asking to include that in just to try to hold folks' feet to the fire so that these applications can be timely processed.
Follow-up question, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Favola.
I'm trying to remember from my local government days, if the 60-day period starts when the application is accepted by the local government, not necessarily when it's filed, because there's sometimes a back and forth.
I think that's correct.
Okay.
I think that's correct.
I mean, I'm sure you've gone through this representing clients. You know, their applicants tend to be careful before they submit something. So they may submit an application and have conversations. So if in fact it starts counting from the time the county accepts the application, it goes through the process. If there's an amendment or a denial, then the applicant has to refile. So that we're not shortening that process. We're only dealing with the upfront. Under the current law,
Mr. Chairman, under the current law, if you file a rezoning or special exception application, it's the mask. That's what's messing me up. Special exception application, and it's denied. Ultimately, it must be denied by the Board of Supervisors, not the Planning Commission. But if it is in fact denied, you have to wait a year to refile it unless it is substantially different. And that's what the law says. It has to be substantially different.
Substantially, I think, yes. Thank you for reminding me. Mr. Chairman, a follow-up question.
Sure, Senator Favola.
So my only request is, will 60 days be enough for, the Planning Commission, the whatever site plan review process a local government might have to really deal with, say, a mini sector plan or rezoning, a special exception? Because if they don't get it all worked out, it goes to the Board of Supervisors and they get a denial, then, as you just mentioned, the applicant has to wait and refile. That's my only question. I don't have a problem with this, and it's theoretical. I just am warning about practicality.
Mr. Chairman, typically typically the way I do these, and I've seen others approach it, they try to work with the locality in advance before anything is filed, so that there's a better process going forward. In some jurisdictions, unfortunately, and I don't know what the cause of it is, they're just obstinate about the process.
They're just, I'm sorry.
Obstinate about the
Obstinate.
process entirely. I would say probably 75% of the jurisdictions in Virginia work off of a timeline like this anyway, but there are a few that do not. And I don't know why, but I think those oftentimes are the ones that are the genesis where we have to make a rule of probably the way the practice goes forward anyway. If that answers your question.
Yeah, yes, it does. Yes.
Se-
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Stewart brought this problem to my attention back during the special session, and I tried to get it in language when we were in conference with the budget, and the House at that time just didn't want to take time to fool with it. So I think it's a good measure, and I move the bill be reported.
All right, we've got a motion and a second, but we have some public comment to take, I believe.
I think we might have comment.
Go ahead. Eldon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Eldon James. I'm speaking on behalf of the Virginia chapter of the American Planning Association. Reached out to the senator over the weekend. We weren't able to connect. Did communicate the chapter's concerns, but I apologize that we didn't actually get to speak. The chapter's concerned with some potential consequences, and Senator Favola kind of hit on it. The current statute puts the limit on planning commission or their agents' ministerial or administrative decisions, site plans, subdivision plats. This bill would expand that to legislative decisions such as rezonings and special exceptions. If we have a complex rezoning, it can require a pretty extensive back and forth that can often take much longer than 60 days. We fear that if this bill passes, the Planning Commission might be forced in those complex situations to send a rezoning case forward with no recommendation in order to meet the time limits, or even in a worse case, send it forward with a negative recommendation on a project that might otherwise have a positive outcome. We have extended the offer to the senator to work with him to try to accomplish his goals in a different way, and we stand by that offer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other public comment? Senator Stewart, has VACO weighed in on this? Have they taken a position on this?
Mr. Chairman, I've not heard from them, and frankly, I didn't even know Eldon was trying to get in touch with me. I practiced law this weekend instead of legislation.
Good for you.
Didn't look at my emails. No, I don't know the answer to that. And you know, Eldon is not wrong in what he's saying. That certainly could happen, but it's a policy decision. Do we want people to move these projects forward in the process, or do we want them to languish? And I think all of us want them to move forward. And
Mr. Chairman.
This is just
Chairman.
I would agree with Senator Stewart's goal. I would ask you and Senator Stewart if you would be adverse to maybe taking this by today, so you would have time to work with Eldon and fine tune it a little bit.
As much as I respect Senator Favola, I don't think I can work with Eldon on this.
Work with Eldon? I thought you could work with anybody, Senator Stewart.
I can work with anybody, but sometimes
Work with me.
sometimes the policy,
it's clear, right?
You just can't get there, and I apologize for that. But
okay, all right. I think
Chairman.
Yep, Senator Bell. Oh, McPike. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Question for the patron.
Yeah.
Senator Stewart, would you agree that, for instance, some of this is existing law, and now you're applying it to rezoning and other issues, and so as it applies, you've probably been through some land use cases of your career. Would you not agree that at sometimes there are implied easements or easement issues that are not yet discoverable or filed in deeds that become very important to a local planning and zoning commissioners as they review multiple issues? I mean, the more I've been into land use cases, the more I understand the complexities and the depth that whether it be access rights, river rights, implied easements, or farming rights, or other things that have multiple layers that may not be in the deeds, but implied easements or other things that impact neighbors. As the law writes now, if the planning staff does not pick it up on their first comment, they can't come back to that. And those are some important rights of a community and neighbors to understand either a rezoning or a land use application and how it applies to a neighborhood. How would you resolve that conflict in this?
Mr. Chairman, Senator McPike, you're correct. But the difference is all that comes out in what's called the site plan process. And so you would file an application for a rezoning or special exception. You have a lot of time that you spend with the local staff going back and forth over things. You then go through that special exception or rezoning process with the Planning Commission. Now, this is just the Planning Commission. This has no impact on the Board of Supervisors. The Planning Commission then makes a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, who actually takes the legislative step to approve or deny something. If they approve it, then you go into what's called the site plan process for those types of issues that you're talking about. So this bill has no impact on what you're speaking of.
Follow-up question, Mr. Chairman.
Senator McPike.
Could it not come up during the special use permit process or zoning application where a neighbor sees that the public notice is posted in their neighborhood and comes out and speaks to the Planning Commission, but as written, those comments and considerations, because they're not written in the first round of comment, couldn't be considered by the Board and Commission if you're now at the second round of comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'm having a hard time following on that one. I guess anything is possible. That could happen today without this change in the law. But this is typically what you're talking about occurs well after what this bill does, because there's a great deal of time spent on what's called a site plan. And that site plan is where you detail everybody's rights. And I've seen that happen where actually you're having a hearing and a neighbor comes in and says, well, I've got an old easement, a prescriptive easement through that property, and I want to make sure it's identified. And so you do. You make sure it is identified, but you still don't identify it until the site plan process, which happens well after what this bill would have an impact on.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted a chance to throw my support into this bill and say simply that in talking with developers about how we can get more affordable housing, one of their biggest concerns is the process and the cost that they have for going through some of the developmental plans they have with the localities, which are very variable and unpredictable and challenging for them. And I think that this is this is an important step in us ensuring more affordable housing throughout the state for Virginia. And I think it's a realistic goal that we can more universally accomplish in the localities. So I'm going to support this bill, and I thank the senator for bringing it.
Senator Stewart, I am afraid I have conjured up VACO for you. Joe?
What'd you do that for, Mr. Chairman?
I think we've got Joe Lurch on here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and first off, Senator Stewart, like Eldon, I had reached out to your office over the weekend or on Friday and over the weekend via voicemail and email, and I know how busy schedules are, and wanted to find out the genesis of the bill, and now we've heard it. And so just one thought to add, maybe just on what Eldon was saying is, in a case now where the Planning Commission would have a public hearing to hear input from, neighbors and community, I just wonder how the 60-day time frame may limit not only the Planning Commission, but the applicant in addressing issues. I just remember there was a big SUP for a large solar project in Spotsylvania where the Planning Commission took a lot of time and did a lot of lead work and addressed a lot of concerns and did a lot of research. So when it was handed to the Board of Supervisors, there was a lot that was already done. And I wonder if there's maybe a way to work with you, at least to have the applicant to maybe have some opportunity to, work with the time frame as well if they want to address something. And so I just offer that moving forward with the bill.
Mr. Chairman, Joe's exactly right, and that's a good case that he references, but that can still occur. What they did in Spotsylvania, the applicant requested that the application be continued. And the applicant can still do that here if that needs to be done. The applicant can say, Planning Commission or Administrator, I request you defer this for 60 days. I request you defer this for 90 days. I request you defer it. That won't change any of that. And sometimes that will still happen. The applicant will, because otherwise the applicant's going to get a bad recommendation. And so they're going to have the incentive to defer it as necessary to work through those issues that Joe's bringing up.
Joe, are you still there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Joe, so I heard a concern, but I didn't hear a position. Do you all have a position on the bill?
Not at this point, just concerned just about unintended consequences. And what we'll do is we'll get this out to our members to just get some reactions on some things here to maybe see if we can work with the senator on addressing what he wants to do while also kind of making sure we're not upsetting the process as he said, from his point of view, 75% of the localities this is working for.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions of Senator Stewart?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Favola.
I'm still back on, I'm not 100% sure what problem the senator wants to solve, although I can see that he really is trying to enable a more expeditious review process. I would just like maybe a few guardrails in here, and I'm certainly sympathetic to projects that have affordable housing elements in them. I would be happy to give them a more expedited review process, but I really am not comfortable at this point with what the potential impacts might be of this legislation. So my motion is that we just pass this by for 1 week and have Senator Stewart come back. If that's the motion.
Okay. I think we all have some issues in the fast pace of a short session. We need to take a little slower walk on some of these, Senator Stewart. So do we need a formal vote on that or a voice vote? All right. Everybody, all in favor? Motion is passed by for the day. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, Senator Stewart, you got some work to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Next up, Senator Locke, 1285. And she's been waiting patiently out there in the lobby. Senator Locke.
Good morning.
Good morning. Senator Locke, I think you've got an amendment for 1285, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us what it is and we'll get that in front of us?
It is at the end of line 15, after more.
Mr. Chair, I can read it if you want me to.
Yeah, please report the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is unstriking and which on line 15, and then following that with may endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. So that's line 15 after more. It'll continue and say, and which may endanger the public health, safety, or welfare.
All right, somebody want to move the amendment? Second. All right. Amendment's moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, the bill is amended in front of us. Senator Locke.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And with that amendment, prior to 2013, localities had the authority to require registration of any building that had been vacant for a period of 12 months or more. In 2013, the General Assembly amended the code to allow registration of such buildings only if they also met the definition of derelict. And vacant buildings can attract squatters, particularly in houses with owners who do not reside locally. This can lead to an increase in crime in a neighborhood. Though the houses are vacant, they are not derelict, or they may not be derelict, and therefore do not meet the definition for the registry. So the City of Hampton would like the General Assembly to remove the 2013 amendment as it appears in section 15.2-1127 around derelict buildings, therefore restoring the language to its prior form and permitting localities to maintain a vacant building registry. And the amendment simply says that it also includes endangering the public health, safety, and welfare. And that's the bill, Mr. Chair.
All right, any questions of Senator Locke?
Mr. Chairman, just a comment.
Sure, Senator Favola.
I just want to note that the city would still be obligated to inform the landlord, and all that administrative notification would still be in place. This is really just eliminating the words derelict buildings, so the city can take action on something that's vacant, and I think would be a public safety concern. Is that
absolutely
correct, Senator Locke?
Yes.
Any other questions of Senator Locke? Is there a motion on the bill?
I move to report.
It's been moved and seconded that 1285 be reported. Open the roll. I'm sorry, did we have any public comment? I'm sorry, I apologize.
Mr. Chip Dix.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. We thank Senator Locke for working with us. I'm speaking on behalf of the Virginia Realtors, and we were concerned that the original change, including derelict building, basically had a property-based distress. If the property was run down or whatnot, then that would be the time that vacant building registration was appropriate. And Senator Locke is trying to address not only a building issue, but where the property is vacant and there's bad activities occurring. And so the language that she and I worked out of may endanger the public health, welfare, and safety accomplishes both distressed buildings and any type of conduct that's happening on the property that the city needs to address. So again, we thank Senator Locke for working with us, and we support the bill.
All right, I believe we have a motion and second in front of us on the bill. The motion is to report 1285. Open the roll.
Uh, 14 ayes, 1 nay.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Senator Locke. Next up, we have 1298, Senator Bell. Fantastic piece of legislation, Senator Bell.
It takes me 2 iPads to do this one.
All right, Senator Bell, 1298.
Mr. Chairman, as we all know, through this pandemic, the tourism industry, our lodging industries, restaurants have suffered greatly. One of my other duties, I honorably serve as the vice chair of the Virginia Small Business Council. And we had a report in the last meeting, which I asked for, that 25% of our small businesses in Virginia have closed during the pandemic. I think that's really an alarming figure. If you look at a deep dive into that, so many of them are related to tourism. So really what this bill seeks to do is to aid this sector that is suffering right now. And what it looks to do is try to set the seeds and give them more tools to find their way out of this terrible position we're in. Some of the estimates from the industry say if they don't get assistance, if we don't sow seeds to help them, give them tools to get out of this, it could take until 2024 for this industry to recover to pre-COVID levels. That really means a lot of jobs that are going to be lost. It really means that many people are going to suffer, and regions of Virginia that rely heavily on tourism are just going to be behind the power curve during that time. People will move away and it'll have long-term impacts. Tourism improvement districts, which is what this bill creates, offers a means to allow localities and the hospitality tourism industry to enter into a novel approach to finance tourism marketing and promotions of the area. They operate in a similar way to business improvement districts, and they're focused solely on tourism. Local governments will be granted the authority to establish tourism improvement districts if they choose to, so long as a majority of hospitality business and the proposed district support and approve assessments on these businesses to fund the improvement district. The funds are managed by either local boards comprised of hospitality business, or they could use a nonprofit. Around the country, this has been a very successful practice. 180 tourism improvement districts have been created in 17 states. They've generated $408 million in revenue. And they've helped in previous times many different tourism-related industries bounce back. This is one of the ways I think we can lend not a handout, but a hand up to our tourism industry. There's a lot of stakeholders who support this endeavor. Virginia Restaurant, Lodging, Travel Association, they're in the queue. We'll hear from Mr. Robert Melvin. Hopefully he's queued up now. We've got the Virginia Municipal League, Visit Loudoun, Visit Fairfax, Visit Norfolk. This is important. Again, we are at a time where we're facing unprecedented challenges for the tourism business, which is a big business in Virginia. We are the keepers of some great history of our nation, some sacred sites. We need to make sure we open this up, we get the word out, and we allow these jobs and visitors from around the world to come back. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Senator Bell. Do we have any questions of Senator Bell? Questions? All right, we have, I know, at least one person up for public comment who's queued up.
Robert Melvin.
Mr. Melvin.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Robert Melvin with the Virginia Restaurant, Lodging, and Travel Association. We would like to commend Senator Bell for carrying and introducing this bill. It's going to go a long way to helping shore up the recovery efforts for our industry. And you know, this has been, as you heard from Senator Bell, it's been done successfully in a multitude of other states. And we're just looking to try and replicate that here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, especially when we look at when this was done, for example, in San Diego, it generated $30 million annually prior to the pandemic. In Memphis, Tennessee, it generated $5.3 million annually. So this is the sort of thing that really can help out our localities with their tourism promotion efforts, and then also assisting the industry as we try to gain a footing coming out of this pandemic. So we strongly urge you to pass this measure.
Next.
Beth Erickson.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. I am Beth Erickson, President and CEO of Visit Loudoun, and I am here to say that we enthusiastically support this measure and hope that you will as well. As the fine gentleman said, tourism has taken the brunt of a lot of what we are seeing. We are in Loudoun County. Tourism puts nearly 18,000 people to work. It's a vital part of our communities. It's a vital part of our economy. As you've also heard, these are in 17 other states successfully, and 11 other states are considering tourism improvement districts. It is one more tool that is available to us as we look to build our destinations and our communities back from the pandemic. Marketing and ensuring that visitors know of the assets that we in Virginia have to be able to encourage them to come back is critically important now more than ever. And I think that when I look specifically from my perspective in Loudoun County, this helps us as we are looking to build metro coming out to our area. We currently have tourism zones as an opportunity. We have tourism gap funding. The ability for us to have TIDs would really help us with both destination development, enhancement, and marketing. So without any doubt, this is a very valuable tool to us. We thank the Senator, we thank the RLTA and all of those who are supporting this, and would encourage you to do so as well. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Anybody else?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have one more. Michelle
Okay.
Gowdy.
Good morning. It's Michelle Gowdy from the Virginia Municipal League. We support this bill as well, and I don't have to say anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the bill's in front of us. I will say this, if there's a motion on 1298, the bill also has to go from here to finance.
I move to report and refer to finance.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. The bill be reported and re-referred to finance. Let's open the roll.
14 yeas, 1 nay.
Senator Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next up, we have Senator Eben, 1309.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Senate Bill 1309, which I believe council has a substitute.
All right, we have a substitute for 1309.
Mr. Chair, I'm sending it now.
All right, so that's going to be on the system here momentarily.
I can explain it or read it in the interim if you'd like.
Why don't you do that really quickly?
Okay, so what this does is it expands the local stormwater management fund and allows more flexibilities for local government. And the wording of little 3I, the new wording, would change to say flood mitigation and protection measures that are part of a comprehensive flood mitigation and protection plan adopted by the locality. Grants made pursuant to subsection little 3I shall, where practicable, prioritize projects that include nature-based practices. And I want to thank the Chesapeake Bay Foundation for working with us on that wording. Right now, localities, or I should...
Let's get the substitute in front of us. Somebody want to move the substitute? All right. We moved and seconded that we adopt the substitute. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, now we have the bill, the substitute in front of us. Go ahead, Senator Eben.
Okay, currently localities can use their own appropriated stormwater management funds for the purpose of granting funds to the owner of a private property or common interest community for stormwater management erosion prevention on previously developed lands, but they're only allowed to use the grants for the construction, improvement, or repair of a stormwater management facility or erosion and sediment control. So this legislation doesn't require them to provide any funding. It only enables them to provide funding if they're facing challenges due to flooding in the communities. And we know that in the Mid-Atlantic, climate change models predict an increase the amount and intensity of rain. In Alexandria, we experienced 3 significant intense rain events in less than 18 months that caused significant flash flooding, requiring fire department to get involved in rescues and really significant damage. We know that targeted assistance on private properties can be a cost-effective way to reduce the risk of flooding, and that one neighborhood-scale project that costs several hundreds of thousands of dollars can protect hundreds of properties and homes faster and in a more effective manner as compared to multi-million-dollar capital projects. Sarah Taylor from the city of Alexandria has been in contact with some of the members of the committee and is eager to address any questions.
All right. Are there any questions first of Senator Eben?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Senator Bell?
if you could give us an example of what some of the projects that possibly could be funded, smaller projects, things like that. Thank you.
Sure. If it's okay, I'm going to let the city's representative answer that.
Absolutely.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Sarah Taylor on behalf of the City of Alexandria. To Senator Bell's question, we could use this to do everything from installing flood doors to flood proofing of spaces to more natural options like swales and rain gardens. And so these are intended to be immediately impactful, lower cost solutions where while we are planning out longer term flood protection programs, in Alexandria, we're looking at $150 million, 10 years worth of projects. The rain's not going to stop between now and when those projects are finally implemented. So these are really immediately impactful, short range projects that we can do in partnership with residents and businesses.
Any questions of Ms. Taylor? Do we have anybody else queued up? All right, go ahead.
Jesse Maines, are you prepared to speak?
Yes. So,
Please go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, members of the committee, Senator Evan, I'm Jesse Maines, and I'm the Stormwater Management Division Chief in the Department of Transportation and Environmental Services with the City of Alexandria. And as Sarah said, the city does strongly support the bill. Like many other localities in Virginia and the region, Alexandria residents have been greatly impacted by more frequent intense rainfall events that have created flash flooding emergencies, which threaten people's lives, their homes, and businesses. 3 of these significant events occurred over the last 18 months. The risk from these, as you know, is only going to increase the effects, as the effects of climate change are felt in communities across Virginia. So as a result, our fire department responded to many emergency calls that involved flooding and swift water rescues. While this grant assistance for private property does not solve flooding in our communities, it does enable us and encourage mitigation measures to be implemented in the short term, while we can look at larger capital improvement projects to address flooding. And in Alexandria's case, we're proposing the grant program to create a public-private partnership where the private property owners will be required to contribute a portion, or about 50% of the total cost for the eligible flood mitigation projects that Sarah talked about. Just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today and to hear this bill.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Steve Carter Lovejoy. I'm a volunteer with the Virginia Sierra Club, and we support this bill. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, good. Next.
Katie Waynick.
Hi, good morning. Can everyone hear me okay?
You're up.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak. I apologize, my toddler's in the room and she also likes to speak, so you'll probably hear her as well.
Okay.
And a special thank you to Senator Evan, who's sponsoring this bill, and to Director Taylor and others for their tireless work in making sure residents are kept up to speed on it. I'm here today to speak in favor of the proposed amendment to the local stormwater management fund, and to also request that such aid be available to eligible residents without a liability waiver being included as a condition of acceptance. 2019, mine was one of the many Alexandria City properties that experienced flood damage as a result of an unusually heavy rain event. However, it wasn't surface level water that caused the damage, but a backup in the city's sanitary sewer line that pushed its way into my home through the basement shower and toilet drains. Homeowners insurance covered most of the damage, but to fix the problem, we faced thousands of dollars in unexpected expenses. As such, we were very pleasantly surprised and happy to learn about the city's backflow preventer program, whose eligibility has been recently expanded to any city resident. We read the agreement carefully. We noted the waiver liability as a condition of the program. We weren't very happy with the language, but we felt that we could trust the city and the mitigation work that we were undertaking. We signed and the work was completed a few short months later. Less than 10 months after approval, installation, and sign off by the city on July 23rd of 2020, our new backflow preventer failed and our basement experienced a second flood of sewage, this time worse than the first. We have since learned what the cause of our unit to fail was, and we've remedied the problem. Our street faced another backup on September 10th of this year of 2020, and this time ours held, but many of our neighbors were not so fortunate. Our problem was not installing the device or even the plumber that we used. It was honestly using this waiver in exchange for $2,000. What I know now that I did not know then was the extent to which the insufficient infrastructure plagues our city. Within our 8 watersheds, my street specifically lies in an area with one of the single largest known issues, with documentation from the city on it dating back to at least 2009. A recent proposal has this project listed as a top priority, number 1 in fact, at a cost of approximately $34 million. Work likely won't be completed for 2 to 3 years, so residents are bracing for years of additional flooding while we wait for capacity in the pipes to be addressed. I do believe that these grant programs are a fantastic way to help residents in the short term, but I also believe that when they're offered with liability waivers, they become tools for jurisdictions to not only waive liability, but also remove the motivation to fix some of these infrastructure issues. We already know some of the litigation that's been needed in the past to comply with the Clean Water Act, and to that end, to also increase accountability, I would ask legislators in Richmond to go one step further than just providing this aid and assistance to residents, but also include protection as well. In addition to voting for this vital aid, please consider adding as the condition of awarding these grants that municipalities not be allowed to waive their liability towards residents wishing to apply for this aid. Thank you for your time and thank you for considering this bill.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it. Is that it for public comment? All right, we have the bill in front of us, 1309.
Mr.
Moved and seconded that, I'm sorry, wait a minute, Senator Hanger's up. Senator Hanger had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a quick question. I support the bill, but when I was looking at the substitute, all I got was a bunch of gobbledygook on my computer here. So I have a question with the substitute. The state, of course, Alexandria has really stepped up the effort for stormwater control up there, and we've also allocated a significant amount of state money. With the substitute, does it authorize additional ways that the money the state is supplying can be spent?
No, the state money is for the combined sewer overflow project, which are holding tanks for sewage that would otherwise go in the Potomac before it gets treated at the water treatment plant. These are for individual neighborhood projects with city money. This is not state money.
Okay, I appreciate the clarification. It's all stormwater, so I thought, and I couldn't see the substitute, so that answers my question. Thank you.
All right. Senator Donovan? Oh, Senator Chase, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also don't have a copy of the substitute, and I would really appreciate the opportunity to look over that before I would vote on this.
Mr. Chair, I'm working. We're having a technical difficulty. The file is somehow corrupted, and so I'm just about to get a new, clean version of it up, and hopefully that one will work.
Okay.
In the interim, would you like me to read it again in case that helps, or just wait for it to come up?
How much longer before it comes up? How much longer?
I just clicked the button. Hopefully it's up right now. I'm checking on it.
Do you have it, Senator Chase?
There, it should be up, yeah.
Thank you.
And Senator Eben, could you recap for us what the substitute does?
So basically what we're doing is we're allowing a wider use of city's own stormwater management fund to include flood mitigation and protection measures that are part of a comprehensive flood mitigation and protection plan adopted by the locality. Grants made pursuant to the subsection shall, where practicable, prioritize projects that include nature-based practices. So basically, it's not just the erosion and sediment control. It can be broader than that at this point, including things like grading or flood protection products or flood proofing as needed.
And we have one more person who wants to speak who's popped into the public comment part. Go ahead. Are they ready?
Ms. Pombor?
Hello, are you there? Going once, going twice. Okay. Senator Chase, do you feel comfortable voting now?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually have a number of people that I want to talk to, so I'll probably abstain for this vote.
Okay.
But I've got a few phone calls I want to make before I make my final vote.
Okay. All right, so I can't recall. Did we have a motion and a second on 1309? Yes. On the substitute? Okay. All right, we've got a motion and a second to report the substitute 1309 and a substitute. All in favor?
Ayes 14, noes 1 abstain.
You show a no, I don't show a no.
Pardon me, ayes 14, noes 0, 1 abstain.
Okay. All right, next up, Senate Bill 1355, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senate Bill 1355 is a Section 1 bill the purpose of it is to allow Greene County to withdraw from the Rapid Hand Services Authority. There are 3 members, Greene, Orange, and Madison. It's interesting that on Senator Cosgrove's bill earlier today, we had a conversation about the Southeastern Public Service Authority, but because back a number of years ago, we had a bill basically like this to allow Chesapeake to withdraw from that service authority. There has been lot of issue with Greene County is becoming a bedroom community, I guess, for it's north of Charlottesville, and has a lot of new people, a lot of development in Greene County. They have relied on a fee that was charged by the Service Authority for servicing debt. The Service Authority discontinued that and will not allow them to withdraw. So this bill is to allow withdrawal. I do have a substitute, Mr. Chairman, and the substitute is intended, I would ask that you adopt that substitute, and I'd be glad to explain that.
Sure, why don't we do that?
Okay.
Let's get Mr. All right, it's been moved and somebody seconded? That the substitute be adopted. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Senator Hanger, substitutes in front of us.
Thank you. I'll give you a brief explanation. Then I'm going to call on a representative of the county, of former delegate Greg Habib, who is representing the county, to offer a further explanation. But essentially what it does, it would allow Greene County to withdraw after certain circumstances or qualifications are met. The substitute was added at the request of Virginia Resource Authority. Those folks have run a great program. I've worked with them a lot over the years, and they've never had a default. Probably the closest they came to a default was on a project that I encouraged them to finance, Natural Bridge, when we converting that to state park, but they were diligent and made that work out. And so they are very cautious about things like this. So what we've added is a provision that all the debt holders, in this instance, Virginia Resource Authority, there would have to be unanimous consent for their withdrawal in order to withdraw. So that most likely will force some mediation so that this can be addressed in a thoughtful way. And I would ask Mr. Chairman if former Delegate Habib, representing the county, could speak at this time.
All right. Greg?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, Greg Habib with Gentry Locke here on behalf of Greene County. Senator Hanger did a good job of explaining both the underlying bill and the substitute. The point here is to allow Greene County to withdraw from an authority that is no longer meeting its needs. And this is done in a way that protects the existing localities by requiring Greene to meet their ongoing obligations, as well as bondholders, which is what the substitute does, which I hope you will ultimately accept. Quickly, Mr. Chairman, to anticipate Senator Chase's questions about this authority, this is the exact concern that she has raised. Sometimes these unelected authorities don't meet the needs of citizens. That's what's happening with the RSA. So rather than letting unelected bureaucrats, unelected authority members run water and wastewater for Greene, we are asking to allow Greene to revert to maintaining their own systems, which would put both the taxing and operational authority back with the locality where it ought to be so they can meet the needs of their citizens. I have Mark Taylor, who's the county administrator, on my phone with me here. If anybody has any technical questions, I don't expect you do. This is a simple bill. We would ask you to adopt the substitute and then adopt the measure. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Habib? Greg, you tell Mark I said hi.
I'll do it. He can hear you.
Okay. Haven't seen him in a long time. All right. Any other questions? All right. The substitutes in front of us. Been moved and properly seconded that that Senate Bill 1355, amendment in nature of a substitute, be reported. Open the roll.
Ayes 14, noes 0, 1 abstain.
All right. There you go, Senator Hanger.
Thank you.
Next up, Senate Bill 1399, Senator Pillion. Did I wake you up? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 1399 is a bill that was going to be introduced by Senator Chafin at the request of the Heart of Appalachia. It's a simple bill. It just changes the statute name from the Virginia Coalfield Tourism and Development Authority to the Heart of Appalachia Tourism Authority. That's it.
Could there possibly be any questions of Senator Pillion on 1399? Okay. Yes. Are there any speakers? And if there are any speakers, let me admonish you, do not stand in front of a moving train. All right. Been moved and properly seconded that 1399 be reported. Open the roll. Okay. All right. And I don't think we have anything else on our docket for today, do we? And we've got a couple of bills kicking around. Senator Stewart's will be back, and we've got a charter bill that had to be delayed. And I don't know, I'm sure something else will fall into our laps, but we've made a lot of progress today. So thank you all for your cooperation. And with that, we are adjourned.